Welcome to today's training. Today we're talking about path-funded projects, specifically for individuals who are experiencing and transitioning from homelessness, hopefully into permanent housing. PATH stands for Projects for Assistance in Transition from Homelessness. It is a specific funding source that has key terms and definitions and specific data entry tasks in HMIS. The first thing we're going to go through is some PATH data elements in terms. So those data elements and what they mean in the system. PATH projects track contacts with clients. A contact is an interaction between a PATH-funded worker and an individual who is potentially PATH eligible or who is already enrolled in PATH. It must always include the presence of a client. So either on the phone and they're talking directly to the client, they're in person, they're at a service provider with the client. Those are all contacts. Anything outside of that, so if you are a PATH worker is interacting with a service provider, that's not considered a contact. Engagement. Engagement of a PATH eligible client is the point at which the client's relationship results in a deliberate assessment or the beginning of your case plan and goals. It's a one-time event and it has to be on or after the start date, but prior to the exit date of your provider. Clients cannot be enrolled in PATH without being engaged first. So that date of engagement must be entered. Enrollment. So enrollment is tracked in HMIS. The enrollment is the point at which the PATH-funded worker has determined that the person is eligible for the PATH program. That enrollment must be entered into the system in order for them to be considered enrolled. PATH eligible individuals and the PATH provider have mutually and formally agreed to engage in services. So there is a deliberate acceptance of PATH programs and services. And the provider has initiated the file record for that person. So they've done the entry assessment. They've started working on their goal plan. A referral is actually tracked through service or through Service Point or HMIS. This is a specific data entry point, and it's tracking when a PATH staff has acted on behalf of a client and made a referral to enroll that client within another service. Services are also tracked. So PATH-funded assessment is a PATH-funded and it's a benefit. And we enter those assistance and services provided to a PATH enrolled individual. Connection to SOAR is part of the data entry process. So if a client is experiencing homelessness, they're eligible for an SSI application through the SOAR process. It's intended to determine if a client has been connected to a SOAR program or not. And the PATH provider has made that connection for them. It can change during the client's involvement. So maybe they're not involved and connected to SOAR initially, but that data element can be added throughout the client's PATH enrollment. PATH status is something that's entered into HMIS as well as a data element. It's used to determine whether a client is eligible for the PATH program. So there's a determination of eligibility. It states that the client is enrolled in PATH, was found, or you state that the client has been enrolled in PATH, or if they were found ineligible, and if they were not enrolled for what other reasons, what are the reasons why they weren't, or if they lost contact with the client and they were unable to locate the person. If a client becomes enrolled, an enrollment date is collected and identified and put into the system, and the PATH provider have mutually and formally agreed to engage in services. So it's another action by the client and the PATH provider within HMIS. PATH enrollment date may be on or after the project start date or engagement date and prior to the exit. There is a current living situation data element that's also within HMIS that has to be filled out. The current living situation data element is a more robust way of detailing the data collection of a contact. So this is how you will add a contact into HMIS. Every time a PATH program contacts a client, they will now answer certain components of this data element. the information date, the current living situations. There's a variety of different living situations to select from. Those two elements have to be answered in order for a contact to be determined in the system. So this is the HMIS current living situation data elements. You can note there's a lot more than what you must fill out, but the current living situation, start date, and information date has to be answered. PATH projects must also document services provided and PATH funded services specifically. This is used to determine the PATH funded services that have been provided to a client during their enrollment and prior to exit. PATH providers are not required, but they are encouraged to record each instance of PATH funded services. So you do have to enter at least one PATH funded service, but it's really strongly encouraged to enter every PATH funded service provided to that client. Services provided to PATH funded clients are listed here. There's a funded service and then the definition of what that service is. So maybe there's a variety of different services that are within that category. Re-engagement, screening, clinical assessment, habilitation and rehabilitation, community mental health, substance use treatment, case management, residential supportive services, housing minor renovations, housing moving assistance, housing eligibility determination, security deposits, and one-time rent for eviction prevention. So any and all of these services can and must be tracked through HMIS. How to create a service in Service Point. You're going to go to the service transaction dashboard and click add a service. Then select your service type from the drop-down box. Do not use the lookup function because all PATH projects have their own Dropbox list created within Service Transactions. Once you choose that, please make sure the dates, the start date and the end date of your service are also put into the service transaction before you click save and continue. The start date can be changed to a prior date if you need to backdate this information. Once you click save and continue, you'll see a variety of data elements that fall underneath this section. There is an option for service notes. This is not where you would put a normal case note. That's in the case notes section under the case plan section within HMIS. However, for PATH funded projects, you must choose the type of PATH funded service that you are providing. So if you reference back to that list in the previous slides that list PATH funded services, the specific to this funding, you're going to have to choose what service you're tracking. You must also follow up with any open and current service transaction within HMIS. Follow-up information is used for services that are not fully met and need to continue for more than one day. So some of those services you might start and they might have an end date that's more in the future. Follow-up dates will show up on your home page when you first log into the system to remind you as a user that you have some follow-ups that you need to figure out if they're closed, if they are, the need status, etc. Services on the report will be reported when they are completed. So all of your PATH reports will only track and identify services that have been completed and fully met. Referrals are also tracked in the system for PATH funded projects. A PATH referral can be recorded each time a referral is made, but it is only reported on the PATH annual report once. So when each type of service or type of referral, a referral has been attained once a PATH enrolled client begins receiving that service as the result of their PATH assistance. So you track the referrals in the system as being attained. So the referral was completed, the client is receiving those services. Not attained, which meant the client was referred, but no service had been, or no referral had been connected, and they didn't actually start receiving that service. Or unknown, which means that the client's connection and everything, you know, that maybe the client disappeared and you don't know what the end result of that referral was. Path providers are not required, but encouraged to record each instance of path-funded referrals. So again, just like with service transactions, every referral that's made is not required, but really strongly encouraged to be answered and entered into HMIS. These are the list of all of the referral types. They're very similar, but not the same to the service transactions and services provided. Referrals for path-funded projects are community mental health, substance use treatment, primary health and dental care, job training, education services, housing services, permanent housing, temporary housing, income assistance, employment assistance, and medical insurance. How to add a referral in HMIS. Again, this is all located within the service transaction dashboard. To add a referral, you're going to click Add Referrals. Choose your need by highlighting the need that's within this quick list. And then you're going to click Add Terms. Next, you're going to choose your referral provider, which will show up in the drop-down box only. So only use the drop-down box referral. There have been projects added in HMIS that are associated with your path-funded projects for referral purposes only. Once you choose your referral provider, you're going to click Add Provider. Once you do those two things, you're going to see a needs, referral date, and then you're going to select the type of path referral that you're making. Again, just like with service transactions, there's specific path referrals that are tracked through your path funding source. If any type of path referral was made, you also need to follow up and select the outcome. There is the option for the follow-up date, and you can choose yourself as a follow-up user for this specific referral. In the referral section, you're going to want to make sure to click this little checkbox of the referral that you're making. And the last thing you need to do is change the need status to if it's in progress or etc. when you're creating, or if it's just been identified and you haven't really done anything. Once all of that is done, you can save all. So click Save All. And your referral has then been made in the system. If a referral is made and you need to follow up and change the need status so that you can track whether or not your referral was successful, whether it was attained, not attained, or unknown, you're going to need to click on the pencil of the referral. It'll open up the full referral, and then you can change the need status to complete this referral process. And this is just a quick graph or really flow of what path programs and eligibility and path data entry is for you in the system. So there is a project start date, which is usually the first contact you have with a client. Contacts are collected in HMIS by entering the date and location of each client interaction through the current living situation. Then you have the engagement phase where you collect your universal data elements and your program specific data elements. An interactive client relationship results in a deliberate client assessment. So this is when you're collecting all of your assessment information and determining if a person is path eligible. Once path eligibility determination has been made, the person is then enrolled and the date of enrollment is entered. That's when path funded services and referrals can begin. It's when eligibility and the client agrees to engage in services. Through that process, it could be a long duration as you're enrolling them, as you're meeting their service needs and their referral needs. Once a client is determined to be stable and in permanent housing, or they've transitioned to mainstream resources, they leave the program or there's been no contact with the program for a specific period of time that's determined by your state or by your funder. Then you will create a project exit. All contact made with this client are going to be collected throughout this entire process. So make sure, again, you add those client contacts you add those service transactions and referrals. So this concludes today's training. Thank you.